It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchi, and thanks a lot for joining us. It's the start of another week. The past week saw a lot of Nigerians wonder what was happening again with the Naira. The economy seemed to be on the right trajectory in the weeks before. The Naira had come down to a low of about 980 to the dollar, I think about that. But it closed out the last week at about 1,004 to the dollar, and a lot of us are confused as to whether the measures that have been put in place by the CBN are still going to be effective. What does that mean for food inflation, for the purchasing power of the average Nigerian as a whole, and what this means in the coming week? Is Naira actually stable? Are things just going to be continuing in this way, topsy-turvy, up and down, while we try to figure out where we stand generally economically? But in the past week as well, Mr. President did jet out of the country. He spent some time in the Netherlands, met with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and is currently in the Middle East at the World Economic Forum. And we're hoping that he comes back with some good news. Nigeria needs all the investments it can get. So that, I mean, this GDP that we saw that has been halved in the last decade is very scary for a lot of people and want to start, seeing things move up in the right trajectory. But speaking of international and foreign issues, I'm going to be starting off the show today talking about the power of the Nigerian passport and how that affects us generally. I'm joined here in the studio by the head of business development at Gidi Traffic and a traveler, Betha Idoko. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, most people don't necessarily concern themselves with things like this. It's like, okay, we are used to waking up and going to look for visa and all of that. I was going through the statistics recently. The Nigerian passport is ranked 93rd in the world. We do have visa-free entry to 46 countries. Actually, 26 countries are visa-free, 17 visa on arrival.
Yes.
2, you can apply for an electronic travel authorization to enter. So we need a visa to 147 countries.
Sadly.
That's a lot, and for a country that's trying to, develop. And the funny thing is a lot of these countries that are visa-free are ECOWAS enabled, thankfully. So as a traveler, how do you navigate these things, or someone who's passionate about, traveling? How hard is it as a Nigerian to move around, you think?
Sometimes I like to say, oh, it's not that hard. But if I would really be honest, I think it's very hard. If you are already in motion, and by that I mean you've gotten a bunch of visas, to your passport, it tends to make it a little bit easier. However, there are still exceptions. The first thing is, how do you get those visas, the difficult to get visas, like the UK.
And the rules even.
And the rules, governing getting these visas. Now, it's not impossible to get these visas because a lot of people actually get these visas and they do travel. But then the terms and conditions, both written and unwritten, is what basically works against the Nigerian passports. And then, plus sometimes we don't have the greatest track history, which for me, I'm always opposed. Like, I always oppose this because for me, I think it should be a person-by-person situation as opposed to generalizing, and because of that, just making life really difficult for people who genuinely just want to travel and come back, not necessarily relocate or anything like that. Yeah. So it's not the easiest. But if you are someone who loves to travel, once you're able to start, it's just kind of like you set the ball rolling slowly and it picks up. So for me, as an example, I have visited 70 countries. It will be really something for any country now to deny me a visa. However, though, I can still get surprises because, I mean, it's still a Nigerian passport, whatever. It only puts me in a better position, but then it doesn't eliminate completely that I can still be denied a visa. I was denied a visa in 2022, and at the time I had been to 51 countries. And shockingly, the country I was denied a visa to was an African country, Tanzania. After 51 countries, Tanzania said, we're not so sure, But then I was on it, and eventually I got the visa after 2 denials, not even just 1. So these things still happen. It's still a Nigerian passport.
I think I've heard a lot of people say, that there's nothing that's a better teacher than traveling.
Yes,
it opens up your mind. You come back, knowing better, seeing how things have worked in other places. So on the one hand, yes, it's fun to travel, but it also is sort of arming yourself, isn't it?
Yes,
You know, to come back to your country.
Yes, it is. It opens your eye and teaches you actually the kind of teaching or the kind of lecture you cannot get in a classroom, you know, you definitely do get from travel. Now, part of the learning process of life and how life works in a lot of ways, it's not just within your community. To see life on a broader perspective, most times you have to go out, because the way it works for you in your country or your community is different from how it works outside. But then if you're opportune to get bits and pieces from many different places, it opens up your brain in a way that only travel can.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, it's great education.
Education is even one thing, but you know, people who are watching who might be like, well, I don't have any plans of traveling anywhere anyway, so it doesn't concern me. But you can't also deny what it does, you know, with regards to investment, with business. Yeah. We've seen multiple stories of people who probably were going to attend a meeting or had a pitch for their company to, you know, get investors who didn't get a visa to wherever it was. Yes. I mean, I had a conference I was supposed to attend last year. I got the visa, but I got the visa a week late. Which means I couldn't attend. That also happened. Yeah. If I didn't have a visa that restricted me, I would be there. And so many people have stories like this. And you think of the number of lost opportunities, investment opportunities that, you know, these sort of things have affected, right? Yes. I mean, a lot of them. Last week, I had someone who needed a visa to Morocco. Now, if you have a Nigerian passport and you have any of the preferred visas, UK, US, or Schengen, you can get an e-visa to Morocco in just, what, 3 days, 2 days sometimes. However, if you don't have any of those visas, then it's a full consular visa where you have to travel first off to Abuja. So if it were a case of you leaving Lagos, you have to get on the plane, get to Abuja, and have it sorted out. And this takes a while. And he was going for a conference. A high-profile person, but he had a Nigerian passport. He missed that conference. He got a Schengen visa. Unfortunately, we found out his visa was just a 90-day entry and single entry. So even amongst these big visas, there's still discrimination. So he needed a multiple visa. So if he had a multiple entry visa for Schengen, then it would have worked. But then he missed this conference, as important as it was, because there was no time. We didn't have time enough to get the consular visa for him. So, I mean, this happens. There was a case of another friend who had a Nigerian passport and worked in a really big company. So it's time for them to go for conferences or anything. If it has to be spontaneous, he's canceled out of it, as much as he's the right person for it, because there's no way he can travel. And then, thank God, he gets a Canadian passport and his life has transformed. Because right now, if there's anything, any travels, wherever, it's just pick up my bag, pick up my passport and go. The company can call on him because now there's ease of travel. It's no wonder all of these companies that are selling passports are doing so well in Nigeria now. They are. For those who can afford it, of course. But I mean, people want that option. Yeah. But you had a recent experience. Yes, I did. Let's talk about that. A very sad one with Turkish Airlines. So I was traveling. I bought a return ticket to Houston and back. And on my return journey, it was supposed to be a 21-hour layover. And of course, the only flight for that day. But then I didn't mind, because, I mean, immediately it was advertised I was going to get a free hotel or tour package during the wait. So, I mean, it's not so bad. It's not like you're stuck in the airport, you know. And I've used this before. Prior to 2022, I've used that stopover program like at least 3 or 4 times. But I checked. Is Nigeria eligible? Because I know these things change. If you are a traveler in this country, research is one of your biggest tools. You have to keep researching constantly, because the rules for Nigerian citizens change all the time, indiscriminately too. You know, so I get there to the airport and I told them, okay, well, I have this 21-hour layover. They say, yeah, yes, Nigeria is eligible. However, I'm supposed to have gotten the visa from Nigeria before coming. I said, no, that's not the information that is clear anywhere on your website. The information that comes up, even as pop-ups, is just to tell me I have this. I should check if my country is eligible. And I checked, Nigeria is eligible. She said, yes, you are eligible. However, you should have gotten this visa from your country. Now, to put things in perspective, a Turkish visa costs $315, and it takes about 2 weeks to get it. So how in the world am I going to first wait for 2 weeks, get a Turkish visa, pay $315 because I want a stopover of 21 hours? So I looked at it and I'm like, nah, something is wrong here. This doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. First things first, why was this program stopped? Because prior to 2022,
Yeah, if you had a US, UK, or Schengen,
you could go in.
You could go in. I mean, I used that multiple times. Why did they stop it? It cannot be that Nigerians were running away, because if I have a US, UK, or Schengen visa and I want to run somewhere, it's not going to be Turkey. So what is the real reason it was stopped? You know, but that one was a separate conversation. I said, okay, if you won't give me a hotel in town because you say I do not have a visa, there are 4 hotels at the airport. I might as well get one. They said, no, they don't get hotel for anybody at the airport. And then their attitude is horrible. It got to me so much, I started to cry. No one cared like you're crying. They went in and started to drink tea. I was left with no other option. I was just confused. I sat down, pulled my hand luggage, put my phone there, and that's how I made a video. And much to my surprise, the video went viral. It was everywhere. It was on Twitter, it was on Instagram, it was on WhatsApp groups I cannot number. And then some kind of attention, you know, was brought to the issue. I was really surprised that the NCAA reached out to me, flew me into Abuja, full investigation, Turkish airline has been summoned and all of that. But all of this happened because I had a Nigerian passport. And while I was there trying to state my case, other nationals were coming, the preferred nationals, and they were getting their either hotel, they're asking them, which would you like, a tour package or a hotel, and they were giving it to them. It was very painful for me because I felt like I didn't feel I'm buying this ticket the way they bought the ticket as well. My ticket probably, and most times, is more expensive than even the tickets that they purchased. But if they're giving this opportunity, why can I not be given the least? The least is at least give me a hotel at the airport. It's the very least you can do. But I just saw it as a situation where they really didn't care. And I mean, all we can do is complain at the counter and get out. Nothing will happen about it. No one is going to sanction them, even though it's a sanctionable offense. According to IATA, a passenger should not be at the airport more than 9 hours without accommodation. But then they cleverly put this thing to it that is not open. Get your visa before you come. If other people are able to get visas at the airport or online, if they have a layover, especially with the UK, US, or Schengen thing for us, then why don't we get it as well? Why was it stopped?
So where are things now, do you know?
Yes, they summoned them, and there's a follow-up meeting. I haven't received details of the follow-up meeting. I was only in Abuja on I think it was a few days ago anyways. So I'm only waiting for feedback now. However, the DG said it wasn't going to be an issue where this won't be swept under the carpet because they get complaints, but they haven't really met someone who spoke up that they can reach out to and say, come and tell us exactly what it is that happened, you know. So I'm hopeful on that. Plus, I reached out to the Foreign Affairs as well, sent an email, no response yet. And then I got the number to his special advisor yesterday, and I reached out and sent messages. He gave me another email address, which I sent an email to. But I'm only just waiting to see. Because this case is not just NCCAA. It borders on foreign affairs and aviation as well.
Which is what I want to ask, because you travel a lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how often you deal with, you know, these things, but, you know, you always wonder, there are bilateral agreements, whether it's foreign-based or, you know, based on airlines landing or whatever. Why does it take things like this, you think, you know, for government to say, oh, come to us, let's find out what happened? Is it that these things are not clear, you think, to government until someone is affected? Like you said, the Turkish thing was changed. Most people don't even know it's changed. Yeah. Do you think the Nigerian government is not aware, you know, before someone is affected? Like, why does it take something significant happening before government steps in?
So I'm going to be very honest, because I will be honest. I feel like they do not care enough. This is my feeling.
About Nigerian citizens?
Yes. And I think there's a lot of negligence. Because my question goes back to, why did they stop that stopover program? Why did they stop giving Nigerians, citizens, e-visas, at least for those who they believe qualified? Why did they stop it? Was there anyone to mediate at the point of this stopping to say, wait, why do you want to stop the program? What did we do? Okay, let's talk. Can we do this or can we do that? Did anyone do that, or was it just stopped and then everyone kept quiet and life went on as normal? That's something that we do not know. And for me, it's negligence for me not to know it. For no one is reaching out to say, okay, as regards this has happened or that has happened. There's hardly anyone to even talk to about this. For me to get the email for the Foreign Affairs, I was searching. I found one, and there has been no response. So for me, there's a lot of negligence. It's like they don't care, or the people who are in these offices are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I must be very honest, I was extremely shocked that anybody answered me. That NCCA, I was shocked to my bones. They want to hear what I have to say. Oh, they care. oh, they actually flew me in, okay, they're asking me questions, they're telling me sorry, they're telling me we'll go into this. Before I arrived at Abuja, Turkish Airlines had been summoned already. They already had one meeting. But then, this is the only one so far that seems like it has bothered to listen to me. Everywhere else, I haven't heard anything yet. Madam Abike Dabiri reached out. I hear she's one to talk to as well. You know, she reached out, she sent me a DM because I sent her a message on her page, and she said, oh, they're looking into the matter, blah, blah, blah. But that's as far as I have. And this issue happened on the 14th of April. And I mean, I'm not saying everybody should drop every other thing they're doing because I had an issue. But then at least, can I see what's happening? I haven't seen anything except NCCA.
There are people who will tell you, well, that government can only do so much, right? Yeah. Because a lot of these things that happen, where countries either, okay, say, well, you need a visa or ban Nigerians from coming in, like we've seen with the UAE, happen not necessarily because of government, but because of what Nigerians do when they go to these places. You know, so you also wonder, with the very meager number of countries that we have access to, is there anything government can do differently with regards to conversations, agreements that can change this thing, you know? Because if the citizens, unfortunately, like people have heard or we see sometimes, go into those places and do certain things that, you know, trigger those governments to take action, what can be done, you think?
See, first things first, there's a lot of, you see, our media, because it really pains me when they make it look like Nigeria is the worst country in the world and Nigerians are the worst people in the world. It is not true. I'll give you a simple instance. We are lining up every day at the American Embassy or dropping our passports every 2 years for visas to the US. We don't know it's one of the most unsafe places to be. There are random shootings in the US almost every month. I was in the US for a 5-week period. There were 2. But we are lining up to go there. Because their media has a way of putting them like the nicest people ever. Nobody is denying American citizens visas. With their passports, they can go anywhere. Yet, look at the kind of things that happen in their country. So I think we have a responsibility, first of all, as people, to put our best foot forward. There's no country that does not have bad people. And this is not to support people who have been really unnice. I mean, Nigerians who have behaved wrongly abroad. No, people really should not do that. But then every country has its own. We should not be picked on because of this, no. Take these visas case by case. I mean, you people these embassies are really great at digging into people's information to know whether or not they want to let them into the country. Continue. This one that countries are saying, no, we cannot let them, we cannot let them. The US is doing its job. It's still letting people into their country. It's still letting Nigerians into their country. They have not closed their gates against Nigerians. Nobody really should. Take us one after another. With the bad ones, let the good ones go in. It's that simple. But don't cancel the entire country. That's where our government, I believe, needs to step in. And then put our leg in the right places where it should be. Not to sit down when they cancel us. If they sit down when they cancel us, the entire world will cancel us. And to be honest, in my personal opinion, I think things are changing. This new age of people coming up now, Gen Z and the rest of them, they just want to see the world and be happy. They want to take great pictures on Instagram and come back home. People are not necessarily looking to run away and never come back. Those looking to run away and never come back, we know where they are going. They are going to Canada, and they are doing it justly. They are going through school, or they are going through one immigration program or another. So don't cancel everybody because some people have been bad. Every country has bad people.
I can see you're very, very passionate, Betha. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I mean, there's no gainsaying the fact that, you know, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a lot of work to do.
A lot of work.
A lot of people have been saying that, and I think it's time we have a clear policy of where the direction is and where things need to go. Thanks a lot for sharing your story with us.
You're welcome.
And keep enjoying your travels.
I promise to.
And share Nigeria with the world. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there'll be more right here on Rubbin Minds. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now we're going to shift our conversation now to content creation, comedy, activism, and, you know, but this is all one person, actually. You know, we keep bringing in a lot of creators here who share their stories with us. And for those of you who might not really understand what content creation is about these days, we're joined here by Timi Agbaje, the law. You're welcome. How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Thanks a lot for joining us. I always like to start, you know, with asking people who are content creators, was this always the plan, or did you just happen upon it?
Wasn't the plan at first. Like when I left school and after law school, I came to Lagos to just come host event and all that stuff. But I realized that in Lagos, you have to do something to get visible and for people to know you for what you do. So I ventured into content creation.
Because it's a very, very noisy place. So to get noticed, you have to. So what did you have to do?
I had to first decide what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to do content. Then how do I get people to know me? I started collaborating with people I've known from school, then that are big in Lagos now. Try collaborating with them, featuring their stuff, and from there, start picking up.
So when you were studying law, you didn't have any plan to do anything with it?
No, I don't know. I have plans. I still do. I still use my law. In school, I used to host corporate events. I hosted all the corporate events in my school. Like, that was what I loved doing. That was the only thing that would take me away from class.
Okay.
So after school, I still wanted to keep my law, my profession, and my passion at the same time. So I just kept going.
So you started trying to host events here, and then you realized I needed to create content.
Yes.
So what kind of content did you start with?
To be honest, I started doing skits and rants. So rant was, I started something called Orong now. So I would just look at societal things, funny things around us. Like, you are escorting your guy's house, you now go and you now took a picture and framed it in your guy's and you put it there. Orong now. So I just looked for basic situations and scenarios around me and started ranting about it. And I was doing skit on the side.
When was that?
That should be COVID year. COVID. It was COVID that made me really like start my rant. Yeah, that lockdown. That lockdown shut down a lot of stuff. So yeah, it was COVID year. It was COVID. I don't remember. I think it was March or thereabout, but it was COVID year that like started all of this.
Yeah. Then I know you did have a few things around NSARS.
Oh, yeah.
And the protests in October of the same 2020.
Yeah.
Why did you feel the need to do that? And what sort of things did you do?
In the NSARS protest, I remember that I was part of the protest as much as I could from the days of the beginning time. From the since there was a rally we did before the protest. I was just walking around to let people know that we're not happy. And then there was a protest that was held. I was there till the last day, but I was not there in the evening of the last day. So I was there till the last day. The reason why I joined the protest was because, as at that time, there was a misconception that police brutality happens to people in Nigeria that are probably you're a fraudster or you have tattoos or you have dread. It's not a crime to have tattoos or to have dread. And to be young and successful is not a crime anywhere in the world. So you should not be a victim because you're successful. And I've also been a victim too. I've almost lost my life to that situation too before, despite not even being a fraudster or anything. It was just unfortunate. And I felt like if people like me could have been a victim, how much more people that don't even have the voice or the platform, people to even come to their support and get them out. So that's why I joined the protest.
Okay. Did you create content around it at the time? And were you...
Sort of.
Or did you feel the need to?
No. I was so engrossed in the protest. I went to OAU. So in OAU, when we were lending our voice to something, we were dedicated to, we were like committed to that cause. If we say, maybe for example, something happened and a student was treated badly, everybody wants to get justice. So it's not about your clout, your political divisions, your tribe. Those things don't come to play. We just want to get justice. So at that point, I was just after, let the voices of the youth be heard that this thing needs to stop. So that was what I was about that time.
So I always wonder, people who get into content creation, do you ever worry about what people would want to see or hear? Did you start off, okay, with your own wrong now, watching out with people who like this thing, and do you start saying, this one don't work, let me try something else? How does that, especially the initial stage, work?
Everybody that does business that revolves around customers knows that feedback is the biggest tool to that stuff being successful. So, engagements and numbers are everything that bothers the mind of a content creator. You want to know if people like what you're doing. Because if people don't like you and people don't engage what you do, you probably won't get people to advertise with you or people... The opportunities that are around what you do might not come to you because of the numbers. So sometimes you have to be sure, okay, fine. Okay, my approach to this has to change. So sometimes ago when we started this stuff, when this content creation started in Nigeria as kids, for example, it was just 15 seconds. And it was just like probably a few people that were doing it. Then some people came, Instagram Reels came, and some people delved into that. Later, some people went to YouTube. So people just want to know what people are, like people will say, which people they chop now, which people they chop. So everybody just wants to like latch on the next thing to be ahead of the game, Yeah.
When did you realize you had, or was that a first viral moment, or was there a moment that you was like, oh, this thing is actually working now?
To be honest, there have been degrees of virality that I think I've enjoyed, and I'm grateful to God and people and platforms that have supported me in that cause. When I started doing Orong, I saw people like repost my stuff, and then Orong even got more popular than me. That I used to think I started it that time, so I wasn't even bothered. But I think NSAS was the first thing that I didn't know how to react to it. I didn't know how to respond to it. Like, it was so... The feedback, both negative and the positive, people even said I used it to do money ritual, that taking my bath in public is because everybody that sees me at that protest now, I'm using their destiny to make money. I'm still here. Where's the money ritual? So, I mean, so I think it was all wrong then, NSAS, then it just kept climbing like that. Then my interviews, too, I started doing interviews, asking Nigerians on the street their stories and their perspectives to life. And I realized that people wanted to hear from not just the celebrities alone, they want to hear from the everyday people. So, I mean, it's been different degrees, and I'm grateful to God.
Do you feel the need to comment on governments, like policies or situations or things that happen in the country sometimes? And how do you make that relatable when you do it?
So I have a series I started. What does the law say?
Exactly.
What does the law say is just about analyzing social perspectives and issues from the angle of the law. Whatever my opinions are, don't matter. Whatever your opinions are, don't matter. What does the law say? So let me give an example. There was a particular situation I revolved around. Let me call the person Sugar Mommy of Lagos, because people online, they know what I'm talking about. And then it revolved around cross-dressing. And when I did a content on it, people came at me like, people attacked me. I was so surprised. Some people even called me homosexual. Like, I was so shocked. And I'm like, let's take our emotions aside. Is cross-dressing a crime in Nigeria as of today? No. You might not like the person. You might not like the fact that the person is a man and is walking like a woman or dressed like a woman, either for comedy or for whatever reason that they're doing it. If it's not a crime, the law is expressed on it. Whatever is not a crime, nobody can be punished for it. So until our lawmakers now say, okay, fine, let's criminalize this. So my angles on my content on what does the law say is very simple. Whatever is happening around us, what does the law say? I don't care about anything else apart from that.
Let me get your thoughts then on a few things that have been happening recently. Okay. You've heard the news of the former Kogi State governor?
Yes.
Yahaya Bello.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what's happening?
I believe that the EFCC has not started. I feel like they're still at the formative stage of their implementation of whatever they want to do on the matter. And the reason is very simple. I talk to Nigerian youth on the street, and I realized that so many people now believe that the easiest way to become rich in Nigeria is to be into politics, steal government funds, and after a while, they will just shout your name and stuff, and you go away with it. And we need to change that, because now our problems in Nigeria are no longer legal. They are now more cultural. Back then when we were younger, you're older than me, way older than me, but when I was younger...
Maybe way.
Yeah, I know, like way older than me, yes. When I was younger, if you ask a normal person on the street, what do you want to become? They will say, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a banker. Right now, you see people say boldly, I want to be a Yahoo boy. And it's because of the fact that there are no examples to show that fraud does not pay. Fraud is not the way to go. And people that are even doing the legal way of life, they already see that, they already think that without doing illegality, they won't be rich in life. Not everybody has to be rich, but you can still be rich from the legal way. Now, the problem now is that the people that have done the illegal things, they don't look like there are consequences that come to them for the legality. So we need to correct these opinions. And Kogi State, for example, a sitting governor paid school fees in advance for 5 children. As a matter of fact, when I read part of the case, there was a particular child among those children. There was a baby. That means that child has not started school. They paid money ahead of time. 80 billion naira. And now why I'm angry about it, it's not even about what the law says or what my emotions are. It's the fact that the money that our politicians take from us illegally can do so much for Nigerians. And the problem is that we don't understand how much or how bad the ripple effect of this is on you and I. As a Nigerian, if you travel to some countries, in some airports and embassies, they stop you for just being a Nigerian. And why? These things, these are our actions, our omissions, these things, our way of life here, impunity, they put a bad color to us. It's just like, for example, if I'm your friend, I'm your best friend, and everybody sees us together, and I go around stealing on the street, people will always connect that to, that Ebuka's guy. So now every Nigerian, every bad thing that a governor does, an ex-governor does in Nigeria, a politician does in Nigeria, is Ebuka's country's ex-governor that does it. Yeah. So the government needs to try to make examples of these situations. Yeah. I don't want to say more than that because it's in court, so I don't want to say too much. I know that the EFCC wants to do.
I know, I mean, these are all allegations. So
allegations, yes. Nobody is guilty. Nobody is guilty until proven guilty by a competent court of law.
The EFCC chairman was very categorical, but there are still allegations. Yes, but even if the allegations, I wanted to get your thoughts on what's the liability of the American International School could be in a situation like this to receive money
in dollars.
In dollars, years ahead, you know, is that not, I don't know.
The law is very clear.
Do you think the school is liable, will be liable for anything?
I think the school has some questions to answer. The CBN Act is very simple and straightforward. Nobody should refuse the Nigerian naira, which is our legal tender, as mode or means of payment in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, you should not charge in dollars. You should charge in naira. Whatever your country is fine. You can now calculate and submit that money in Nigerian naira and ask them to pay you that. You can't go to America, for example, go to another country and tell them that you are from Nigeria. You want them to be patronizing you in naira. It doesn't work like that. I also hear allegations online too that some government agencies actually demand for some payments in dollars. I can't answer that because I've not had the experience of that. But I believe that these are the things that place every demand and every pressure on our naira. That's why everything in Nigeria revolves. If dollar goes up, fuel goes up, everything goes up. Life is difficult. To buy pure water on the road, now I heard that pure water is like 15 naira per one sachet. Pure water was once 5 naira per sachet. And I don't think the quality ever changed. It's just the cost of living and inflation has got into that. I feel like the school has questions on the dollarization of the economy, why they are accepting money in dollars in Nigeria. Second question, money laundering charges. A sitting governor is a politically exposed person. What proof of work has he done to show you that he is able to cough out 8 billion naira? I don't think any governor in Nigeria today, I start to be corrected, in the next 8 years, will have 80 billion naira as a salary take home from Nigeria government.
Okay, salary, okay.
No, I don't want their security put a lot of stuff, like there are a lot of allowances and all those things. From their salary, I don't think anybody has a right to 80 billion naira in 8 years.
Okay.
So they have questions to answer.
Let's evolve this conversation now, because I mean, you're very passionate about the law, you're a content creator, but we also live in an age of misinformation and disinformation. Yes. And we saw that very heavily during our last election. Yes. All of these things just being put out. Most people are not able to sort of filter what is real and what isn't, right?
Definitely.
And sometimes content creators were also, called out for that, in the sector that you are. Yeah. How do you think we need to navigate this, with the population now of young people who mostly get their news from TikTok, from Instagram, from people who even hardly go to Google. Sure. It's TikTok and Instagram. Oh, I saw it on TikTok. Oh, I saw it on Twitter. Sometimes not verified, So when social media has become real media for people and it's a space where anything can be put out, do you think there's a responsibility on people like you? And for even if there isn't, how do we navigate the future with, this?
Definitely, we have responsibilities. It's optional though, because it's not my duty as Nigerian to inform another Nigerian. My duty is to keep to the laws. If you don't keep to the law, it's on you. But ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And I feel like everyone that has a platform in Nigeria has a pseudo responsibility to inform people. For example, cyber stalking. Section 24.1 and 1B of the Cybercrime Act 2015 says whoever puts out a statement which he knows that is false, but puts it out to ridicule another person and annoy another person, or put someone in view of harm or inconvenience, commits a crime called cyber stalking, punishable by 7 million naira fine or 3 years imprisonment, or both. If people don't know these things, they keep doing it. Some people don't actually know that apart from defamation, there's another crime called cyber stalking in Nigeria. Let me give an instance. Somebody just woke up one day and messaging and a beautiful, blessed husband, called blessed by coincidence too. They unveiled the picture of their baby, and somebody just woke up one day and said, this child looks like Nathan Ebasi. Now, saying that alone has not even cost anything. This child looks like an innocent, can still be passive innocent. But we may now say, this child is definitely Nathan Ebasi's child. This man should go and do DNA. This man should go and investigate his wife. This woman definitely had this. You have already crossed so many lines. And if you don't let people know that these things are criminal under the law, and they are liabilities that are not to be joked with under the law, people will keep wallowing in their ignorance. And Nigeria is a very cultural country. If you go after someone that is not popular, they will say, Ibuka the oppressor. That Mr. the oppressor. But people need to understand that there's no thin line to this. You're either on the side of the law or you're against the law. So we have a responsibility as much as we can, because not everybody has the chance to be able to put and infuse these things, as much as you can, to let people understand that there's a law in Nigeria. Nigerians believe that Nigeria is very lawless. Not anything goes. If you have money, you bribe them. There's some people that don't, with their money, they still bear the brunt of the law. So we have a responsibility to let people understand that, yes, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, and there are still laws in Nigeria that are very, very sacrosanct. Yeah. So I believe you and I, Rubbin Minds has exposed a lot of minds and a lot of creators to things like this. I'm grateful to the opportunity too.
There's been whispers in government for a couple of years now, from the last administration, President Buhari, to even now, President Tinubu, whispers about, some sort of regulation of social media or the internet as a whole. And most people have wondered what that looks like, because the internet is just this place, is this space where, how do you track things, even the social media organizations globally, the Metas and, Twitters and all of that, still find it hard, to sort of self-regulate. How does a government do that? Do you think it's doable? Do you think it's necessary? Especially in a country where, let's be honest, more laws means more oppression for a lot of people. Yes. Do you think that's something that's needed? And if it isn't, how then do we start, to fix these things?
To be honest, from experiences, past experience as a Nigerian, I'm not sure we are ready to operate social media regulation. What I think I want to advocate is, for example, we have a National Orientation Agency. Their job is to inform us of the basics of what it means to be a Nigerian. I feel like they should infuse themselves in social media, let Nigerians understand the laws and the things that guide us. Because the moment you regulate too many things in Nigeria, it always ends up in taking freedom of speech or expression of people. And the moment people are not able to express themselves in a democracy, it's ready to into another form of government. And also, don't forget, accountability is the biggest virtue of democracy. If you are leading me, I voted for you to represent me, I have a right to question you. Ebuka, I voted you to be my honorable house of something in my state, in my constituency. We heard that they gave you 100 million naira for constituency project. Ebuka, we never see any constituency project. What is happening? I have a right to do that. Now, my approach on doing that must also be within the confines of the law. Those are where the government will now come and say, oh, yeah, you have a right to be accountable, to express yourself, to speak freely, but do not cross these lines. So I'm scared. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the government. I don't know their plans. There was a time that a government of a country banned Twitter and came to announce on Twitter that they have banned Twitter. Some agents of that same government were still using Twitter. That shows that it's very difficult to do some of these things. We have VPN, we have so many technologies at play. So I don't know how they want to do it, but I just hope they don't take the freedom of speech, and especially the Nigerians.
Fair enough. With what you do now, where do you see yourself evolving to? Because, like I said, you are doing content, you're passionate about the law. You said your law is still a part of your life.
Yes.
You know, you advocate, you're an activist. What does the future look like?
The future for me, to be honest, I just hope to keep lending my virtues and my gifts to humanity. And it doesn't have to be in the spheres of law alone. I love hosting events a lot. And you're one of my mentors, people I look forward to. And I really appreciate that for what you do. You and a couple of hosts of other people. The future for me is a country, a continent where an average person on the street understands the basic laws that hold us, that upholds society. For example, copyright. Intellectual property rights violations are the mainstay right now in the economy of the country. And an average person does not even understand the gravity of this thing. So, for example, I did a content. I said, a photographer that takes your picture has the right to that picture. You that paid him for the picture don't have the right to the picture apart from domestic and private use. And people came at me that, what are you talking about? How will I pay somebody over 100,000 naira for 30 minutes? And tell me that I don't have... But it's the truth, because the copyright act is very simple. Literary, musical, and artistic work belong to the author of the work. And some of them belong to them for as much as 50 years after the date of creation. Some after 70 years. So if you violate all these laws and you don't know, and you always argue in ignorance, you always think that you're right. Now, there are ways to protect yourself from those laws when you are in the know of it. But the future looking for me is, I want to be a part of a change that informs an average Nigerian. I want to look back and say, I was one of the people that championed the cause of educating Nigerians, inspiring Nigerians. That's what it looks like for me. For now. Tomorrow, am I going to golf or play football? Oh, it's maybe...
I thought he was going to mention there's politics in his future.
No.
He's sounding a little like
No.
But we'll be watching.
I don't think everybody should be a politician.
I agree with you.
Not everybody should be a pastor. Some should be deacons, some should be elders, some should be ushers in church.
Thank you very, very much for your time. And what's your handle? So they can
Timi Agbaje.
Just Timi Agbaje.
Yes, on Twitter, Timi_Agbaje. Everywhere else, Timi Agbaje. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, everywhere Timi Agbaje.
Please follow him and gain some knowledge, and in a fun way. Yeah. This is the most important. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for taking another.
Back, we're going to switch our conversation now, talking about transparency and accountability in government. We're joined on virtually by Ayodele Adio, who's the media executive. Ayodele, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ebuka. It's good to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Now, I want to start off very quickly. We started the conversation a little earlier in the earlier segment I had on Governor Yahaya Bello. And I want to talk, first of all, about the sitting governor, who allegedly, that's a very, very important word to be noted, that was whisked away from his residence in Abuja. And, of course, because of the immunity he had, the EFCC claimed they couldn't, approach. Explain that scenario to us and why that is important and how legal that was.
I mean, it's a complete abuse of office, a complete abuse of power, and it's unacceptable that the governor would behave in the manner in which he had behaved. It was incumbent on him not to have intervened or at least disrupted the process of arrest that the EFCC were about to do on the former governor of Kogi State. It was quite an unfortunate situation that could have escalated to a point where there could have been a shootout that would have left many unnecessarily dead or injured at the very least. So, you know, such kinds of intervention from a democratically elected governor, you know, to disrupt a reputable government agency, you know, from arresting somebody who had, you know, clearly been invited by the agency, I think is unacceptable and is something that we shouldn't tolerate in our country.
I mean, there's also people who are wondering that, you know, is the EFCC, if they really want to arrest him, they would have. I mean, he did have security operatives around him. Why was there no order, you know, for those people to effect the arrest? The Inspector General of Police, we hear, withdrew his security operatives. Where was the order for them to arrest him? Next thing, we see a poster saying wanted, you know. So a lot of Nigerians are wondering, is this just all a show? Is this actually serious? Has the whole scenario, you think, been handled professionally?
Well, to be honest, I do not think that it's been handled professionally. And again, that's the complexity of the Nigerian situation, where a lot of people, it's a bit like an Orwellian state, where a few people believe that they are above the law and simply cannot be arrested by security agencies, irrespective of the crimes that they have alleged to have committed. And that's quite a pitiful situation, if you ask me, especially given, you know, the state of our country, you know, as we currently are living in it at the very moment. So like you rightfully said, you know, if indeed you wanted him arrested, there were policemen on duty who could have received orders from the Inspector General of Police to effectively, you know, place the former governor under arrest. You will recall that, you know, the current governor who came in with a cavalry of some sort to save the former governor also came in with a team of policemen who also are supposed to be under orders from the Inspector General of Police and rather participated in disrupting, you know, the arrest of the former governor. So it's quite a laughable, shambolic situation, if you asked me. And I don't think that we do ourselves any honors as this plays out across the entire world. We play out like a country that has no respect for the rule of law, that has no respect for institutions, and really and truly, you know, have no respect for the Nigerian people. And if we treat ourselves in this manner and we vulgarize our own institutions in this manner, it's a bit asking for too much for people across the world to respect you or to respect your country.
I'll come back to you, Ayodele. We're also joined by Shinwa Ogbenle, who's a public policy and development professional. I want to ask you, Shinwa, sort of leading on from the last question I just had, because we're talking about transparency and accountability in government. And with this particular government, you know, there seems to be, you know, a show of the fact that there's a fight against corruption and accountability. We've seen what's happening with the former central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, with this Kogi State situation as well. But you also wonder, is the message sort of coherent, which is what I just asked earlier. You know, when you saw the EFCC chairman give that passionate sort of press briefing, talking about all the things that had happened with the Kogi State, with the former Kogi State governor, I beg your pardon, do you get a sense that, you know, these security institutions are not aligned in their messaging, which is why the IG, for example, does not tell his people to effect this arrest. Instead, he withdraws them? Or do you think this is just to give us an impression that something important is happening?
Well, I don't think it is just to create an impression. I do actually think that government has a commitment to corruption. I understand that usually as Nigerians, we have a penchant for being cynical about everything. You know, we hardly see anything good even about ourselves. But to be fair, I think sometimes we actually need to give ourselves we need to give ourselves some commendation wherever we make progress. I think that EFCC is genuinely trying to prosecute corruption. I think that they are genuinely trying to see that, you know, they get the Kogi debacle to a very logical conclusion. I also see an EFCC chairman that looks to be alive to his responsibility and is actually committed to getting it done. But of course, you know, we are actually in a democracy, and it's a rule of law act, in fact, where, you know, you have to actually follow the rule of law. You know, this is not a military rule, it's not military dictatorship where you can just arrest people and put them in jail. So you have to follow processes. You must obey court orders. And that's what you have here. Of course, the EFCC is equally handicapped because, people can exploit the weaknesses in our laws. And I think that more importantly, the most important lesson that we have seen from the Yahaya Bello debacle is that there are actually weaknesses in our laws, and it calls for an amendment of those laws so that our laws can be tighter, they can be stronger, and they can empower EFCC to be able to do a lot more. And I think it's actually a learning curve even for EFCC, as it is a learning curve for Nigeria as well. So I do think that, of course, the government is trying to prosecute corruption. But one of the points you did raise was on the point about the lack of collaboration and synergy between the internal security architecture. I think we have successfully delegated the work of fighting corruption to the FCC, which I don't think it should be. I think there should be internal intelligence sharing among all the internal security architecture. And I think that if we had the very strong collaboration, and I think this is where the NSA does come in. The other day we had the counterterrorism summit, which of course was about Africa. But this time, I think that one of the things the NSA should be looking at should be to see how it's able to bring about more synergy between all the internal security, between the internal security architecture. And I think that's one of the major problems that we have, if you ask me. And this is not the first time this is happening. We've seen this happen with Okorocha. We've seen this happen several times in the past. Where it's either the EFCC versus DSS or the DSS versus the police, and it's a shame. This should not be happening. So I think that the president needs to weigh in and more importantly, the NSA must actually must speak to the security chiefs and everybody who is managing security at all levels of governance. There must be collaboration and there must be internal security. There must be internal intelligence sharing. I think if we had that, we would not have had what happened in the case of Yahaya Bello. It's unfortunate to see, but of course, I believe that the government is strong-willed and eventually, Yahaya Bello will turn himself up.
But considering, the sorts of amounts we've heard with the Kogi State governor, of course, and just when we hear corruption cases in Nigeria, we're no longer talking the millions anymore. It's ridiculous amounts of money that the country actually needs, which means the level of patience, you mentioned Okorocha there, that was 6 years ago. We're at a point where if we've not learned from these things, why are we still at the point where we're trying to figure this collaboration out? Should we still be at this point?
Well, no, we shouldn't, Ebuka. Of course, I agree with you. But Ebuka, what we must also understand is that change and progress is incremental. It is not radical. It is actually going to be day by day building bricks and mortar progress. And I think that we're gradually making that progress. But more importantly, I think that this is where the NSA does come in. It needs to show a strong will at this point. We shouldn't be talking about this in 20 because it has happened before. It is happening again. And it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that we are seeing this repeat itself. But of course, this is testing our resolve as a country. It is testing our laws. It is testing our rule of law. So we must then take the learnings from here. Is that we must then see how we are able to empower EFCC, we are able to, tighten our laws so that people are not able to exploit our laws to get away. In the case of Yahaya Bello, it shouldn't be happening. It's unfortunate, but of course, we must also acknowledge that progress is a continuum, it's not a destination, and that for every moment where you have, events like this, it is a learning. It is a key learning for us to take away and then see what we're able to do about it.
Okay, let me quickly get back to Ayodele now, because I just want to get his final thoughts on this. Ayodele, if you can hear me, we've seen the case with the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele. We're seeing what's happening with the Kogi State governor. There's the EFCC, basically, especially this year, has been quite busy, even with celebrities and all of that. Is it giving you a sense, that things are looking different? Is it a different kind of EFCC you think we're seeing recently?
Well, there's been a lot of motion, there's been a lot of movement, but there's still a long road ahead. When every administration comes into office, there is usually this fire you see from the EFCC. They are trying to arrest, people are accused of corrupt practices. There's a lot of movement here and there, if you like, some sort of show of strength from the EFCC. So I mean, we've been on this journey before. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. The difference here is we hope that this is sustained and this is free, from political colorations, and they stay the course. And more importantly, that they play by the rule of law, because you really and truly cannot effect change outside the legal framework that is supposed to also guide you as an institution. So the EFCC has to also reform itself internally to begin to play by the books, to respect the fundamental rights, of citizens, to go about its business and activities within the legal framework, and hopefully to also build the capacity of its men and its capacity of its legal team to better prosecute many of the cases that it handles, so that it can eventually improve on its conviction rates, especially amongst the political class. So at the moment, it's not a eureka moment. I'm not too quick to applaud their efforts. It's early in the day. I'd like to see this sustained over a considerable period of time. Because you and I know, my brother, there's a lot of corruption that has happened over the last 8 years. We need to see those brought to book.
Thank you very much, Ayodele. Thank you very much. This is definitely an ongoing conversation. We're definitely watching the EFCC and all government organizations or institutions that are supposed to help in this fight against corruption and the fight for transparency and accountability in government. So hopefully we'll call you back very soon. Thanks for joining us. And to you guys at home, thanks for joining us. As always, you can follow the conversation on social media. Please use the hashtag #RubbinMinds when you send us a message. I'll see you next Sunday.